Morning, good evening, good afternoon. The Zimbabwe government announces a major shift on the land tenure. People holding land that they got under the land reform will now get a bankable, registrable, transferable, and more secure document of tenure. No new 99-year lease or offer letter are to be issued. Government says this is to unlock the full value of the land. Previously, land reform beneficiaries could not sell their land. Now they can do so, but they can only sell it to indigenous Zimbabweans. If the truth be said, this only applied to ordinary people. It is no secret that the ruling elite were given title deeds to their land, and in some cases, farms. In a divorce dispute, Robert Mugabe's daughter, Bona Mugabe, it was revealed that she had farms whose total acreage was big enough to cover the whole of Lesotho. And you can bet she had title deeds to all those farms. And yet here we are. A few hundreds of thousands at most who got land under this land reform were given pieces of paper, offer letters they call them, which could be withdrawn, or you could find somebody else waving another piece of paper saying they have been given that land. But now we are being told that the situation is being improved. This is a bankable, registrable, transferable, and more secure document of tenure. Why doesn't the government just give these people the normal title deeds without all this fuss? It beggars belief. We know why. In the 1970s, the late John Robertson approached Ian Smith and told him that giving the rural people, rural blacks, title deeds to even a few acres of land on which their homestead stood would unleash the full potential of the blacks. It'll give them the confidence to build a decent homestead, invest time and money in digging a well, planting fruit trees, and making all manner of improvements on that piece of land, because they will have the confidence that whatever improvements they are making, they can sell the place as a going concern if they've got the title deeds. If they want to build major projects, they can use the title deeds and the improvements on that piece of land as collateral for the bank. Ian Smith refused the proposal for no other reason other than he feared that economically empowering the blacks will only encourage them to demand political empowerment, the right to a meaningful vote in the country. And that, Ian Smith, was the one thing he didn't want to do. Ironically, after independence, the same John Robertson approached Robert Gabriel Mugabe with the same proposal, and it was rejected for the same reason. In 1980, for the country's first elections, Robert Mugabe was supposed to withdraw all his Zanu PF freedom fighters and operatives from the field to designated assembly points. That was what was agreed in the Lancaster House talks. But when he got back to Zimbabwe, he withdrew some, but left a number of them in the field. And they were involved in the campaigning. They made it abundantly clear. They told the villagers that if Zanu PF does not win the elections, the Bush War would continue. So here we are. The Bush War was to continue if Zanu PF was to lose the elections. Of course, the rural people voted to end the Bush War. During that period, there were certain areas in the rural areas where the operatives made it very clear that other political parties were not welcome. There were no-go areas for other political parties. The rural areas have remained Zanu PF strongholds for no other reason other than that the party controlled the people. And ever since 1980, the party has moved in very swiftly to give the villagers and their chiefs the power. They've been turned into nothing more than Zanu PF political commissars. As traditional leaders, they are not supposed to have any political affiliation, but not in Zanu PF's Zimbabwe. And one of the main controls that these headmen and chiefs have over the people is that they have got the power to move the rural people willy-nilly. No one owns the land. No one has got any title deeds. If the village head says to you, you've got to move, you move. And that has given Zanu PF control over the rural areas. Zanu PF has retained the rural areas as its strongholds for no other reason than that it is holding those people to ransom. Here is what Margaret Dongo said on the subject.
They have wrong priorities, especially the current government. How can you go and build an airport which services a few people, and the majority are the elite? and the so-called investors. Look at the rural. I made you come to interview me because I wanted you to have the experience of the roads that we are using. If we go today to our hospital there, you feel pity with that's a hospital in a rural area. If we go to our clinic, you feel pity. We have no piped water here. Do you know the reason why the rural people vote for Zanu PF? One, they're intimidated. Two, the policy is that the rural people should remain poor and subservient to the government. They should remain poor because if they remain poor, they continue singing the song for their master. This is why these people have been impoverished. It's for a reason. Because at the moment, if you economic empower these people, they'll go out of hand. Zanu PF will never have control over them.
A truth that no one who understands the political reality in Zimbabwe can possibly deny. The rural people are, Zanu PF is holding them to ransom. Make no mistake about that. They will never, Zanu PF will never allow the rural people to even own 1 acre of land for political reasons. Doesn't care how much these people are suffering. But for the rural people, the right to a meaningful vote is actually of no value to them at all. What they really want is the right to own the piece of land on which their mud hovel stands today. That will empower them. That will give them the confidence when they are confronted with these Zanu PF operatives to say, to look those operatives in the eye and say to them, this is my land, get off my land. At the present moment, they cannot do so. If the village heads tell them that they are expected to attend a rally, you go and attend that rally. Mnangagwa himself, in the last elections, was boasting of how the village heads would be at the head of the queue, followed by the villagers, the povo, and bringing the rear would be the Zanu PF operative. They will be frog marched to vote for Zanu PF. As they were frog marched to attend Zanu PF rallies. The penalty for failing to attend those rallies or failing to turn up to vote is that you can easily be moved from where you are. But if you have title deeds to that piece of land, no one can move you. When will the rural people be given title deeds to even a few acres on which their mud hut stand? That is the political question of our generation. The irony is, many people don't even appreciate it, that Zanu PF is not only holding the rural poor to ransom, but it's holding the whole nation to ransom. Because as long as Zanu PF can control and has in the bag the votes of the rural poor, and that's about 60% of the vote, the regime is guaranteed to stay in power. So in fighting for the poor's right to own a few acres, we are indeed fighting for a really, truly democratic Zimbabwe. We're fighting to free ourselves. Until the rural poor are freed from the Zanu PF tyrannical oppression, Zimbabwe will never be truly free. As much as we would want Zimbabwe to be a healthy and functioning democracy, it will never be a healthy and functioning democracy as long as Zanu PF is able to treat 60% of our population as hostages. That is the truth. That is the reality. The fight to have the rural people have the right to own even 1 acre of land is at the heart of the fight for a democratic Zimbabwe. Thank you very much. Have a good night.